Well, this is chapter 78 of World's Longest Suicide Note. My name is Roger, and I'm the resident suicidal person, especially when I'm having a bad day. Obviously, if I'm having a great day, why would I be suicidal? But I am not, in any way, shape, or form, a mental health professional or somebody you should base your self-care routine on. I mean, I think I do a pretty good job, but yeah, I'm not in charge of you. Anyway, so as you can see, I've moved on to a different painting. I have to do a bunch of paintings before October because I'm having a show that's going to raise money for breast cancer, American Cancer Society. So that's why I'm doing this one. Okay, it's gold paint. I got Goldfinger. For people who aren't super old, that was a movie, old James Bond movie called Goldfinger. The bad guy's name was Goldfinger. All right. So I'm going to be using kind of this paint, and it's not real gold, but a lot of places. So this is the cancer bell that you ring once you get out of treatment. So and the thing with this paint, this gold paint, you got to put on a bunch of layers. And so this is just like the base layer. There'll be plenty more, because especially on these kind of paintings, the metallic paint isn't great. That's why I went with the yellow underpaint, because it'll show through, it'll make it a little bit more bright. So that's why the yellow underpaint. And honestly, I'm not going to even worry about going over lines and stuff, because this is pretty transparent, not as much opaque. So that's why it takes a lot of, and I'll be adding different colors to this eventually. This is just kind of get the base down. So yes, we'll paint us a cancer bell. And that's the whole reason, is like why I raise money. Both of my parents died from cancer, and so I'm very much anything I could do to help, and American Cancer Society does a lot of good work, and so I'm happy to raise money for them. For all the supports that they give. So anyway. But the one thing, I often kind of compare, not really compare, more for contrasting reasons. What happened there? Like this whole area right here, if you can see that, that's supposed to be painted. That's supposed to be the background color. I don't know why I didn't do that. No. I will have to rectify that oversight. Anyway, so one of the things that I do, is as a comparison, is to talk about the difference between cancer and mental illness. And I'm not trying to say that one is different, better, whatever. It's just they're both illnesses. One just gets a lot more energy put into it, and those that suffer through it don't have, they're more apt to talk about it and to get help and be helped through their process of treatment and recovery. Because cancer is something that nobody wants. I mean, nobody asks for, but they have to deal with it, just like mental illness. I've dealt with it since I was 13. Nobody asked. I didn't know if there was something I could do to not get it. I would have done it, but when you're 13, you don't really think about things like that. It's not about prevention at all, honestly. So anyway, so I kind of compare the two as like, one gets, and it's, nobody gets sick for sympathy. Nobody, like, for attention, I'm going to get cancer. And you all are going to, be sorry that you ever said anything bad to me, because you'll feel like a jerk. But there's I think just having the power to say, because not that if you have cancer you have to go out and tell everybody, that's not, and not that you would do that, but at the end of the day, you're not held back from doing that by what you think people are going to think. Ooh, I have cancer, but they may think I'm a jerk if I tell people I have cancer. No, nobody does that with cancer. I mean, not that anyone wants it, but people aren't like trying to hide it like it's a shameful thing. Whereas mental illness, totally different. It's like, well, we can't. It'd be great if we got some like support for this, but if that means telling another human person that I have mental illness, well, I'm not going to do it, because not only am I going to be mentally ill, now people are going to know I'm mentally ill, and then they'll think I'm broken, or they'll whatever it is. And so we may be going through a treatment plan or doing some, but we're not letting people know, because again, that's like admitting that you have a problem, especially when it's not your fault. But still, we don't do that. We don't talk about it. Whether it's our fault or not, we have it. So it's that stigma that keeps us. So when we go through things and we go through our treatment plan, just like we would if we were, had another type of disease, but since this one is, a mental illness, then, it's we have to go through that fairly alone, because we don't talk about it. Really, that's what I wanted to talk about, is the fact that we have an invisible ailment. It's invisible, and it's invisible because people can't see it. Now, I know there's like cancer, unless somebody is going through the treatment and they don't have hair, or there's another thing, that's obviously there's somebody that they're not going, they're under the weather, they're feeling sick, they're going through a treatment process. Because it's hard to say, oh, someone's sick if you can't see it. That's also could be an invisible disease. But what I mean really by invisible is cancer is not an invisible disease from the perspective of being seen and heard. People are supported through cancer, and even more so. I mean, when's the last time? Let me ask you this: when's the last time you saw a GoFundMe because somebody's going through mental illness treatment plan and they're struggling with it? You don't. There's no GoFundMes for mental illness. And you wonder why that is. It's still going through a disease, dealing with a disease. And keep in mind, a disease is a dis-ease. That's literally what it. So you're going through something that you're not at ease. You're in a state of dis-ease. But we don't. Those two things are not equal in society's eyes. I don't want any hate for like dissing on cancer things. First of all, fuck cancer. I hate cancer. But like I said, this is not like, I'm jealous about the attention that cancer gets and mental illness doesn't get that. All I'm trying to say is society treats those two things very differently. And depression, anxiety, all mental illnesses are invisible illnesses, meaning that people, unless they know you and you're very transparent and talk about your situation, people don't realize what you're going through. It's invisible to them. And we also make that, we help in the disguise. We help in the concealing of that because we don't talk about it. So this whole thing, nobody wants to talk about and or prioritize in any way. And so here we are living with, struggling through an invisible disease, feeling invisible. And that's just not how it should be. So when it's up to all of us to increase the visibility. But how do you do that? And I'll say this. It's a choice that we make every day. Because here's the biggest thing. It's like when you think about it, it's the one thing that brings us all together. It's the thing that we have most alike across every gender, across any ideological difference that we may have. Mental illness reaches across every aisle. It is more, we are more together than we think. Because if you think about this, over 40% of the population has had a diagnosis, and that's light. And what I mean by that is, I think we can all agree that there's a actual shit ton. I mean, whatever a shit ton is, whatever that, like the imperial measurement is for a, I guess it wouldn't be, if it was a metric shit ton, it wouldn't be imperial. But whatever that amount is that makes up a shit ton, that is the number of us that are out there. We are the biggest population in the world, but we don't ever do anything together. We don't ever organize. I mean, we would run the world if we organized. Meaning that people would be coming out of the woodworks to get our approval for everything if we stuck together and if we could form up and join together as individuals under the diagnosis of a mental illness, we would be the biggest force in the world. Because there's more of us than folks dealing with cancer. There's more of us than folks dealing with any other type of ailment or injury or any. I mean, we are a powerful force. We just don't know it. We need to come together. We need to stand up and our voices need to be heard, because even though that is the case, even though we feel that, we don't come to, because nobody knows who we are, because we don't talk about it. And that's just how that is. So we need to change that, that whole situation, and that's when we'll stop being invisible, because that's definitely something that needs to change, is that seeming invisibility, and it starts with each of us. We each have that responsibility. We each have that that need to tell people who we are and what we deal with, and make it, make those connections, because a lot of times, and I talk about suicide and mental illness a lot out in the public, and there really hasn't been a time that I've talked about it where I haven't had somebody come and say, I'm with you. So anyway, so stand up and talk, get involved, and let the two of us figure out a way to come together as a group, and to create this big army of mentally ill people that will change the way we talk about it and think about it. All right, let's do it. So when you figure that out, reach out. Anyway, that's it for today. Have a great day. Keep fighting. We'll see you in the next one.